The emergency session lights blazed across the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, casting long shadows over the assembled delegates. Ambassador Valnox of the Zenthari Empire watched the empty human delegation seats with growing unease. For the first time in 300 cycles, those seats remained vacant during a critical summit. They simply left? Council Speaker Orith's voice echoed through the chamber, his 4 eyes blinking in disbelief. The elderly Quilvan had presided over the Council for 60 years and had never witnessed such an unprecedented act of diplomatic defiance. "Not just left, honored Speaker," replied Ambassador Thelrun from the Confederation of Aligned Worlds. Her tentacles writhed nervously as she consulted her data tablet. The entire human diplomatic corps withdrew from all council facilities simultaneously. Every embassy, every consulate, every trade office across 73 worlds. They packed their belongings and departed within a single rotation. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates from 100 species began shouting, their translation devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. The humans had been difficult negotiating partners, certainly. They asked uncomfortable questions and challenged established protocols. But they had never simply walked away from the table. Valnox rose from his seat, his scales shifting to the dark blue of concern. "We must understand what provoked this action. The humans have been part of this council for only 40 standard years. They are newcomers who do not yet understand the delicate balance we maintain." Delicate balance? A sharp voice cut through the noise. Ambassador Krianol of the Hive Collective stepped forward, her compound eyes gleaming. "We have spent 40 years telling the humans to wait their term, to respect the established order, to accept that younger species must defer to their elders. Perhaps they grew tired of being treated like children." "They are children in galactic terms," countered High Ambassador Zormax of the Vryn Dominion. His massive frame towered over the other delegates. "Humans achieved faster-than-light travel barely 2 centuries ago. Most council species had interstellar civilizations when their world was still developing primitive life. They should show proper respect." Orith raised his ceremonial staff, calling for order. "The immediate question is what demands we should make for their return. The humans control significant territory and resources. Their absence creates economic complications. Perhaps we should review what led to this departure," suggested Ambassador Lysara of the Peaceful Union. The feline diplomat's tail swished thoughtfully. "The humans submitted the petition for Tier 2 status 6 months ago. We have yet to schedule a vote." "Because they do not qualify," Zormax said flatly. "Tier 2 status requires a species to demonstrate cultural maturity, technological sophistication, and diplomatic stability for at least 500 years of council membership. The humans have barely completed 40, yet their technology matches or exceeds that of many Tier 1 species," Krianol observed. "Their economic output rivals civilizations 10 times their age. And their military capabilities?" She paused significantly. "Well, we all read the intelligence reports from the Kraloth incident." An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. Nobody wanted to discuss what had happened when the Kraloth raiders attacked a human colony world. The pirates had expected easy prey. Instead, the human response had been swift, overwhelming, and terrifyingly efficient. The Kraloth Syndicate lost 37 ships in less than an hour. "Military strength does not equate to council status," Valnox insisted. "The Galactic Council was founded on principles of cooperation, patience, and mutual respect. The humans demonstrate none of these qualities." "Do we demonstrate them to the humans?" Lysara asked quietly. "In 40 years, how many human proposals have we approved? How many times have we invited them to participate in high-level discussions? How often have we acknowledged their contributions to galactic society?" Thelrun pulled up statistics on the central display. According to official records, the humans have submitted 214 formal proposals to the Council. Of those, 3 have been approved. All 3 were minor administrative matters involving their own territory. That seems low, Orith admitted, his voice troubled. The humans also requested observer status at the Defense Coordination Committee 17 times, Thelrun continued. Each request was denied, despite their significant military capabilities. They volunteered to assist with the Plague of 70 Worlds, offering their advanced medical technology. We declined their help, stating they lacked the necessary experience. Because they did lack experience, Zornax protested, we cannot allow newcomers to interfere in critical situations. 80 million beings died in that plague, Krienel said coldly. The humans claimed their nanomedicine could have stopped the spread within weeks. We will never know if they were correct, because we never gave them the chance. The chamber fell silent again. The Plague of 70 Worlds remained a dark stain on the Council's recent history. Entire planets had been quarantined, and some species had come close to extinction before the outbreak finally burned itself out. We should send a delegation to Earth immediately, suggested Ambassador Mortek of the Scientific Coalition. Open a dialogue, understand their grievances, negotiate their return. No, said a new voice. Ambassador Quinrex of the Observers Guild stepped forward from the shadows where his kind typically lurked. His species rarely spoke during sessions, preferring to watch and analyze. When they did speak, others listened. I have been monitoring human communications since their withdrawal. They are not interested in negotiations. Everyone is interested in negotiations, Orith said firmly. It is the foundation of galactic civilization. Humans are different, Quinrex replied. His dark eyes reflected the chamber lights like mirrors. They have a saying, don't let the door hit you on the way out. It means they are not only leaving, but doing so without regret or second thoughts. That's absurd, Velnox said. They need the Council. Access to established trade routes, protection under galactic law, participation in the collective knowledge base. No species can thrive in isolation. Perhaps we should consider what the Council loses if humans do not return, Lysara suggested. Human territory includes some of the richest mineral deposits in this spiral arm. Their manufacturing output supplies 17% of advanced computer components across Council space. Their agricultural worlds feed 36 planets that depend on food imports. Thelrun nodded slowly. The humans also maintain the largest civilian merchant fleet in known space. Without access to human shipping, trade costs across the eastern sectors will increase by an estimated 30 to 40%. They wouldn't dare disrupt established trade, Zornax said. No uncertainty crept into his voice. That would violate a dozen treaties. They have already withdrawn from those treaties, Quinrex said quietly. All of them. Every trade agreement, every mutual defense pact, every cultural exchange program. The humans are systematically severing all connections to the Council. The implications began to sink in across the chamber. The humans weren't throwing a tantrum or making a dramatic gesture. They were methodically, deliberately, permanently removing themselves from galactic civilization. Why? Orith's voice was barely a whisper. Why would they do this? Because we gave them no reason to stay, Lysara said. We treated them as inconvenient children, dismissed their ideas, ignored their contributions, and blocked their advancement. And humans, as we are learning, do not accept such treatment indefinitely. We must act quickly, Velnox urged. Send envoys, offer concessions, bring them back to the table before this situation becomes irreparable. I fear it may already be too late, Quinrex said. My analysts intercepted a public broadcast from the human government. They are addressing their entire population tonight. Something significant is coming. The delegates looked at each other with growing apprehension. The humans had always been unpredictable, operating by rules and logic that other species found difficult to understand. But this level of coordinated action suggested planning and purpose that ran deeper than anyone had suspected. We need to see that broadcast, Orth decided. Connect to the human networks immediately. As technicians worked to establish the link, Vilnox couldn't shake a feeling of profound unease. The Galactic Council had existed for over 10,000 years, maintaining peace and stability through established hierarchies and time-tested procedures. The humans had challenged those procedures from the moment they arrived, asking questions nobody else dared to ask and proposing changes to systems that had worked perfectly well for millennia. Or had they worked perfectly well? Looking at the crisis now unfolding, Vilnox wondered if perhaps the humans had seen flaws that everyone else had ignored for far too long. The main display flickered to life, showing a simple podium with the emblem of United Earth behind it. A human woman stepped forward, her expression calm and determined. "People of Earth and her colonies," she began. "Today, we begin a new chapter in human history." The council chamber held its collective breath, waiting to learn what the humans had planned. Whatever came next would change everything. The broadcast from Earth filled every screen in the council chamber. Secretary General Maria Chon stood at the podium with the quiet confidence that had made her one of humanity's most respected leaders. Behind her, the flags of Earth's United Nations hung in silent witness to her words. For 40 years, humanity has participated in the Galactic Council, Chun began, her voice steady and clear. We came to the stars with hope, eager to learn from older civilizations and contribute to a greater galactic community. We believed in cooperation, in shared knowledge, in the promise of species working together for common goals. Ambassador Vilnox leaned forward, his scales shifting to concerned purple. "She speaks in past tense," he whispered to the delegate beside him. "We submitted ideas for improving interstellar travel," Sean continued. "We were told our technology was too new, too unproven. We offered medical advances that could have saved millions during the plague of 70 worlds. We were informed that younger species should not interfere in serious matters. We requested a voice in galactic defense planning. Every request was denied." In the council chamber, several delegates shifted uncomfortably. When listed so plainly, the pattern of dismissal seemed far more damning than any of them had realized. "We tried to be patient," Sean said. "We told ourselves that we needed to earn respect, to prove ourselves worthy. But we have come to understand something important. Respect that must be earned through endless submission is not respect at all. It is simply another word for subservience." "This is inflammatory rhetoric," High Ambassador Zormax growled. "She makes us sound like tyrants. Does she?" Ambassador Creanal asked pointedly. "Or does she simply describe what we have done?" Chun's expression softened slightly. "We do not leave in anger. We leave with clarity. The Galactic Council serves a purpose for civilizations that value stability over innovation, tradition over progress, and hierarchy over merit. These are valid choices. They are simply not our choices." She paused, letting her words sink in across countless worlds. "Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all council institutions and agreements. We will honor existing private contracts between human and non-human entities. But we will no longer participate in council-sanctioned trade frameworks or diplomatic protocols." The chamber erupted into shouting. Delegates demanded explanations, hurled accusations, and argued about proper responses. Speaker Orth struck his ceremonial staff against the floor repeatedly, trying to restore order. "We do not seek isolation," Chun continued, her voice cutting through the chaos on the broadcast. "Humanity remains open to bilateral relationships with any species or civilization that wishes to engage with us as equals. We will continue scientific exchanges, cultural programs, and trade agreements with all who approach us in good faith and mutual respect." "Bilateral agreements?" Ambassador Thelrun's tentacles writhed in agitation. She's proposing to bypass the Council entirely. If other species begin making direct deals with humans, it undermines the entire structure of galactic governance. Furthermore, Chun said, humanity announces the formation of the Independent Systems Alliance. Any species or civilization that feels constrained by Council bureaucracy is welcome to join us in creating a new framework for interstellar cooperation. One based on merit rather than age, on innovation rather than tradition, and on mutual respect rather than enforced hierarchy. The silence that fell over the Council chamber was absolute. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council had been the only legitimate governing body for interstellar civilization. The idea of a competing organization had never seriously been considered. This is rebellion, Zomax declared, rising to his full imposing height. The humans are attempting to fracture galactic unity. We cannot allow this. Cannot allow? Lissara's voice was soft but sharp. What exactly do you propose we do, High Ambassador? The humans have broken no laws. They have simply exercised their right to withdraw from an organization that serves them poorly. We could impose sanctions, suggested Ambassador Corval of the Trade Collective. Restrict access to Council trade routes, freeze human assets in Council territories, limit their access to strategic resources, and drive more species into their arms? Crianol said incredulously, the moment we begin punishing the humans for leaving, we prove their point. We demonstrate that the Council maintains power through coercion rather than cooperation. On the screen, Shun was concluding her address. To the people of Earth and her colonies, I say this. We have always been explorers, innovators, and builders. We did not come to the stars to follow someone else's path. We came to forge our own. Today, we take the first step on that journey. The broadcast ended, replaced by the emblem of United Earth, but beneath it now appeared a new symbol, a circle of stars surrounding a handshake, with the words Independent Systems Alliance written in multiple languages. Speaker Orth sagged in his chair, suddenly looking every one of his many years. In 10,000 years of Council history, we have never faced a crisis like this. Because in 10,000 years, we have never encountered a species like humans, Quainrex observed. His dark eyes gleamed with something that might have been approval. Most species join the Council grateful for the opportunity and never question the established order. Humans question everything. We need to send a delegation immediately, Valnox insisted. Open communications, find out what they truly want, negotiate terms for their return. Did you not listen to Secretary General Chun? Lissara asked. She made their position quite clear. They do not want to return. They want to build something new. Then we offer them concessions, Corval suggested. Accelerate their advancement to Tier 2 status. Give them seats on important committees. Show them we value their participation. After 40 years of rejection, you think they will be satisfied with what we should have offered them from the beginning? Crianol's laugh was bitter. The humans are not interested in our scraps. They are building their own table. Ambassador Mortek, who had remained silent throughout the discussion, finally spoke. We should consider the possibility that they may succeed. Every eye in the chamber turned toward the elderly scientist. Succeed at what? Zormax demanded. At creating a better system, Mortek said calmly. The Council has grown complacent. We maintain the same structures that worked 10,000 years ago, but the galaxy has changed. New technologies emerge daily. Species develop faster than ever before. Yet we continue to insist that newcomers wait centuries before having meaningful input. Tradition and stability have served us well, Velnox protested. Have they? Mortek pulled up data on the central display. In the past 1,000 years, how many significant innovations have come from Council research institutions? How many breakthrough technologies? How many solutions to galactic challenges? The display showed a declining trend that made several delegates uncomfortable. Innovation across council space had been steadily decreasing for centuries. Now look at human development, Mortek continued. The graph shifted, showing an exponential curve. In 40 years, they have contributed more new technologies, medical advances, and scientific discoveries than most council species produce in a millennium. And we have consistently dismissed or delayed implementation of their ideas. Because they needed proper testing and review, Zormax said defensively. A process that takes an average of 80 years, Mortek replied, by which time the technology is often obsolete. The humans grew frustrated with our bureaucracy, and frankly, I cannot blame them. Orith raised a hand, calling for calm. The question before us is not whether we failed the humans. The question is what we do now. We should reach out to other species, suggested Felrun. Ensure they understand the risks of joining this independent systems alliance. The humans may make attractive promises, but they lack the stability and established frameworks that make the Council reliable. I would not be so certain of that, Quinrex said quietly. My intelligence network reports that the humans have been quietly communicating with over 30 species in recent months. Species that have expressed frustration with Council policies. The Talvek Collective, the Free Merchant Clans, the Frontier Worlds Coalition, several independent colonies. The humans did not make this decision impulsively. They have been planning for some time. 30 species? Velnox felt his scales turn pale gray with shock. That represents nearly 15% of Council membership. And those are only the ones my agents detected, Quinrex added. There may be others. The chamber fell into troubled silence. If even a fraction of those species joined the humans, it would represent the largest schism in Council history. And if the Independent Systems Alliance actually proved more effective than the Council. We cannot let this happen, Zormax said firmly. The Galactic Council is the foundation of interstellar civilization. Without it, we risk returning to the chaos of the old days. Wars between species, territorial disputes, economic instability. The humans have not proposed chaos, Lysara pointed out. They have proposed an alternative organization with different principles. That is not the same as advocating for anarchy. We should at least attempt dialogue, Oreth decided. Ambassador Velnox, you have worked closely with the human delegation. Galactic Council Panics as humans abandon negotiations, continued Ambassador. Velnox's ship approached Earth 3 days after the humans had withdrawn from the Council. The blue and green planet hung in space like a jewel, surrounded by a constellation of orbital stations and defensive platforms. He had visited Earth many times during his years working with the human delegation, but something felt different now. Sir, we are being hailed by Earth Defense Command, his pilot reported. They are requesting our diplomatic credentials and purpose of visit. Velnox found this curious. Council ambassadors had always enjoyed automatic clearance to member worlds. But Earth was no longer a member world. The rules had changed. Transmit. Our credentials can inform them I request an audience with Secretary General Chun or her appointed representative, he instructed. Response came after several minutes of silence that felt longer than it should. Earth Defense Command acknowledges your diplomatic status. You are cleared to dock at Orbital Station 7. A representative will meet you there. Not the grand welcome at the government headquarters that he had expected. Orbital Station 7 was a commercial facility, not a diplomatic center. The message was subtle but clear. The old protocols no longer applied. The station's docking bay was bustling with activity. Velnox noticed ships from dozens of species, many of which were not typically seen in Council space. The Talvek, the Free Merchants, independent colonies from the frontier regions. All species that had expressed dissatisfaction with the Council at various times. A human woman in a simple business suit waited at the airlock. She was young by human standards, perhaps 30 standard years, with dark hair and sharp eyes that assessed Velnox with professional courtesy. "Ambassador Velnox," she greeted him with a slight bow. "I am Jennifer Park, Director of External Relations for the Independent Systems Alliance. Secretary General Chun asked me to meet with you. External relations, not foreign affairs." Another subtle message. The humans were not treating this as a diplomatic visit between governments, but as an external business matter. "Thank you for receiving me, Director Park," Velnox replied, matching her formal tone. "I had hoped to speak with Secretary General Chun directly. The Secretary General is currently meeting with delegations from 17 species interested in joining the Alliance," Park said smoothly. "Her schedule is quite full. However, I am authorized to discuss any matters you wish to raise." 17 species. The number hit Velnox like a physical blow. Quinrex's intelligence had been accurate. Perhaps even conservative Park led him through the station to a conference room with windows overlooking Earth. The view was spectacular. But Velnox was more interested in the documents displayed on the central table. Charts, agreements, technical specifications. The framework of a new interstellar organization was already taking shape. "I will be direct, Director Park," Velnox said, settling into a chair designed to accommodate his physiology. "The Galactic Council wishes to understand the human position and explore options for reconciliation." "We appreciate the Council's interest," Park replied, her tone pleasant but non-committal. "However, I should clarify that humanity is not seeking reconciliation. We have moved forward with our new direction." "Surely some accommodation can be reached," Velnox pressed. "The Council is prepared to offer significant concessions. Advancement to Tier 2 status, seats on major committees, priority consideration for human proposals." Park smiled slightly. "With respect, Ambassador, those concessions represent what should have been offered 40 years ago. They are not incentives for our return. They are acknowledgments of past mistakes." The bluntness of her statement was very human. Most species would have wrapped such sentiments in diplomatic language, but humans preferred direct communication. "The Council has existed for 10,000 years, Velnox said. It has maintained peace and stability across hundreds of worlds and dozens of species. Abandoning such an institution is not a decision to be made lightly." "We agree completely," Park said, "which is why we spent 5 years planning our departure and building alternatives before we took action. This was not an impulsive decision, Ambassador. It was a carefully considered strategic choice. 5 years. The humans had been preparing their exit for 5 years, while still participating in Council activities and attending diplomatic sessions. The level of planning and discretion required for such an operation was impressive and somewhat disturbing. May I ask what the Alliance offers that the Council does not?" Velnox asked. Park pulled up a display showing the Alliance's founding charter. First, equal representation regardless of how long a species has been spacefaring. The Council's tier system creates permanent inequality. In the Alliance, every member has equal voice and equal vote. "But surely experience matters," Velnox protested. "Younger species lack the historical perspective necessary for wise governance. And older species lack fresh perspectives necessary for innovation," Park countered. "The Alliance believes diversity of thought includes diversity of experience. A species that achieved spaceflight last century may have insights that a million-year-old civilization has forgotten." She moved to the next point. Second, streamlined decision-making. The Council requires decades to approve new initiatives. The Alliance has a maximum review period of 6 months for any proposal. If consensus cannot be reached in that time, we vote. Such speed invites reckless decisions, Velnox argued. The Council's caution invited stagnation, Park replied. 80,000 beings died from a preventable disease during the Plague of 70 Worlds because the Council took 3 years to approve. Emergency medical protocols that we developed in 6 weeks. Speed is not recklessness when lives are at stake. Valnox had no response to that. The plague remained a dark mark on the Council's record. Third, Park continued, mandatory technology sharing. Every Alliance member agrees to share significant discoveries and innovations with all other members. No species hoards knowledge for competitive advantage. That seems idealistic, Valnox said carefully. Species have invested enormous resources in developing technologies. Why would they simply give them away? Because shared knowledge benefits everyone, Park explained. When one species develops a better engine, all species benefit from improved transportation. When one discovers a medical breakthrough, all species become healthier. The Alliance operates on the principle that rising tide lifts all ships. A human idiom, Valnox noted. But a universal truth, Park said. Competition has its place, but cooperation achieves more. The Council pays lip service to cooperation while maintaining strict hierarchies and restricted knowledge access. The Alliance actually practices what the Council only preaches. She pulled up another display showing economic projections. In our models, unrestricted technology sharing will increase innovation rates by 300% within the first decade. Member species will see average economic growth of 15% annually. Quality of life improvements will be substantial. The numbers were impressive, but Valnox remained skeptical. These are only projections. The reality may be quite different. Which is why we are starting small, Park agreed. The Alliance currently has formal commitments from 12 species, with negotiations underway with 23 others. We are not trying to replace the Council immediately. We are building an alternative that works better for our needs. And when this alternative begins pulling species away from the Council, Valnox asked, what happens to the stability that has been maintained for 10,000 years? Park met his gaze directly. With respect, Ambassador, the Council's stability has been purchased at the cost of progress. How many innovations were delayed or rejected because they disrupted established systems? How many species have grown frustrated with bureaucracy but had no alternative? The Council maintains stability by suppressing change. That is not strength. That is stagnation. You sound very certain of your path, Valnox observed. Because we have thought it through carefully, Park said. We knew the Council would oppose us. We knew there would be resistance and criticism. But we also knew that the current system was not serving anyone well, except the species that already held power. She gestured to the window, where Earth rotated slowly below them. Humanity has always been most dangerous when told we cannot do something. When other nations told us we could not land on our moon, we did it within a decade. When disease was considered inevitable, we developed medicine that extended lifespans by centuries. When faster-than-light travel was thought impossible, we cracked it in 3 generations. The Council said we were too young, too inexperienced, too different to have a meaningful voice in galactic affairs. So we built our own forum, where age does not determine worth and different perspectives are valued rather than dismissed. If that makes us rebels, then we embrace the title. Valnox felt something shift in his understanding. The humans had not left the Council out of anger or spite. They had left because they genuinely believed they could build something better. And perhaps most troubling, they might actually be right. What can I tell the Council? He asked finally. They sent me here hoping for reconciliation, for some path back to the established order. Tell them the truth, Park said gently. Tell them that Huma. Galactic Council Panics as humans abandon negotiations. Continued. The emergency council session convened 6 months after humanity's departure, and the atmosphere in the Grand Chamber was tense. Ambassador Valnox stood before the assembled delegates. his scales a neutral gray as he prepared to deliver a report that nobody wanted to hear. "The situation has deteriorated significantly," he began, displaying data across the central screen. 43 species have now joined the Independent Systems Alliance. Another 67 are in active negotiations. The humans have established the Alliance headquarters on a neutral space station called Unity Prime, positioned at the intersection of several major trade routes. Speaker Orith's 4 eyes blinked in distress. 43 members in 6 months? How is this possible? Because the Alliance delivers on its promises, Val Knox explained. I have reviewed their operational procedures. Proposals are evaluated and voted on within weeks rather than years. Technology sharing has already produced measurable benefits for member species. Several innovations that the Council rejected or delayed have been implemented successfully. He pulled up specific examples. The Talvec Collective shared their water purification technology with the Alliance. Within 2 months, it had been adapted for 17 different species and deployed across 32 worlds. Under Council procedures, such technology transfer would have required 5 years of review and testing. Proper testing ensures safety. High Ambassador Zormax interjected. Speed without caution is dangerous. The Alliance implemented comprehensive safety protocols, Val Knox countered. They simply eliminated unnecessary bureaucratic delays. The results speak for themselves. Alliance member species report average satisfaction ratings of 92%. For comparison, Council member satisfaction currently stands at 68% and declining. Ambassador Krienau leaned forward. What else have you observed about the Alliance's operations? They have established specialized working groups for different sectors: technology, trade, defense, cultural exchange, scientific research, Val Knox reported. Each group operates independently, but coordinates through a central council, where every member species has 1 vote regardless of age or size. Decisions require 70% approval, ensuring broad consensus without allowing individual species to block progress. A simple majority system, scoffed Ambassador Corval. Such systems are prone to mob rule and hasty decisions. Yet their system includes safeguards, Val Knox said. Any decision affecting fundamental rights or involving military action requires 90% approval. Smaller matters can be decided by the relevant working groups without involving the full membership. It is actually quite sophisticated. Lysara spoke up from her seat. What about trade? How are they handling economic relationships? Val Knox displayed trade statistics that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. Alliance trade volume has increased by 40% in 6 months. They have established preferential trade agreements among members while remaining open to external partners. Several non-alliance species have negotiated favorable trade deals directly with alliance members, bypassing council trade frameworks entirely. That violates established protocols, Zormax declared. Only for council members, Lysara pointed out. Species outside the council are free to make whatever arrangements they choose. And increasingly, they are choosing to work with the alliance. Because the humans are offering unsustainable incentives, Corval argued. They are buying loyalty with favorable trade terms they cannot maintain long-term. Actually, the economic analysis suggests otherwise, said Ambassador Mortek, who had been studying the Alliance's financial data. Their trade agreements are structured for mutual benefit rather than exploitation. By eliminating tariffs among members and streamlining customs procedures, they reduce costs for everyone. It is not charity. It is efficient economics. Speaker Orith raised his staff for attention. The question remains, what do we do about this situation? The alliance is clearly growing. At what point does it become a genuine threat to council authority? Perhaps we are asking the wrong question, suggested Ambassador Quinrex from his customary position in the shadows. Perhaps the question is not how to stop the alliance, but whether we should. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, demanding explanations and hurling accusations. Orath struck his staff repeatedly before order was restored. "Explain yourself." "Ambassador Quinrex," the speaker demanded. "The Observers Guild has been monitoring both the Council and the Alliance closely," Quinrex said calmly. "Our analysis suggests that the Alliance represents evolutionary pressure on galactic governance. Species are not joining because they hate the Council. They are joining because the Alliance serves their needs better." He displayed comparative data. Innovation rates in Alliance space have increased by 280%. Economic growth averages 14% annually compared to the Council's 3%. Member satisfaction is substantially higher. Cultural exchange programs have doubled. Scientific collaboration has tripled. By every measurable metric, the Alliance is outperforming the Council. Because they are reckless and unsustainable, Zormax insisted. Or because they are more efficient and responsive, Quinrex replied. My guild has observed the rise and fall of governments across 100 civilizations over millennia. We recognize the patterns. The Council has become what all long-established institutions eventually become, more concerned with maintaining its own power than serving its members. The Alliance offers something the Council has forgotten how to provide: genuine representation and rapid adaptation. So you suggest we simply surrender to this upstart organization? Valnox asked, his scales flashing angry red. I suggest we learn from it, Quinrex said. The Alliance has identified genuine problems with Council procedures and created solutions. We can either dismiss those solutions out of pride, or we can adapt and improve. Ambassador Lizara stood, her tail swishing thoughtfully. I have been thinking about this for some time. The Observer is correct. We have spent 6 months focusing on the threat the Alliance poses, rather than asking what lessons we can learn from their success. Learn from humans? Zormax's voice dripped with disdain. They are barely civilized by galactic standards. And yet they have built something that 43 species chose to join voluntarily in 6 months. Lysara countered. Pride serves no purpose if it blinds us to reality. The humans identified flaws in our system and created alternatives. Instead of dismissing them, we should examine whether their criticisms have merit. Mortec accessed historical records on the central display. I have been reviewing Council history. Did you know that in the Council's first 1,000 years, there were 17 major reforms to our governing procedures? Significant changes made to improve efficiency and responsiveness. But in the last 5,000 years, there have been only 2 minor adjustments. We stopped evolving. Because we achieved a stable working system, Horval protested. Or because we became complacent, Mortec replied. The galaxy changes. Technology advances. New challenges emerge. Yet we continue operating with procedures designed for a very different era. The humans simply had the courage to point out that the Emperor has no clothes. A human idiom, Velnox noted quietly. But an appropriate one, Mortec agreed. We have been pretending our system works perfectly while ignoring mounting evidence to the contrary. Member satisfaction has been declining for centuries. Innovation has stagnated. Economic growth has slowed. We attributed these trends to external factors rather than examining our own policies. Speaker Orath was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with thought. What do you propose, Ambassador Mortec? I propose we form a special committee to review Council procedures and recommend reforms, Mortec said. Study what makes the Alliance successful and determine if similar approaches could be implemented here. Not to copy them blindly, but to learn from their innovations. That would be admitting they were right to leave, Zormax objected. No, Lysara said firmly. That would be admitting we are capable of learning and adapting. The strongest civilizations are not those that never make mistakes. They are those that recognize mistakes and correct them. Crienel stood in support. I agree with this proposal. The Hive Collective has been considering alliance membership ourselves. Many in my government believe our needs would be better served there. But I would prefer to remain with the Council if meaningful reforms are implemented. This admission sent ripples of shock through the chamber. The Hive Collective was one of the Council's oldest and most respected members. If even they were considering departure, the situation was more serious than anyone had realized. How many other species are contemplating leaving? Oreth asked quietly. The silence that followed was answer enough. Delegates avoided eye contact, unwilling to admit publicly what many were discussing privately. Then we have no choice, Oreth said finally. The Reform Committee is approved. Ambassador Mortek will chair it. You have 6 months to present recommendations. 6 months? Corval sputtered. We cannot overturn 10,000 years of tradition in 6 months. The Alliance built a functioning interstellar government in